social media should be an enabling element. It should be a very beautiful, engaging, very energetic medium to propagate your work. It should not be the end medium.
Hello, so welcome to the Awaara Musaafir show, Irfan sir. I have been following your work since a long time now. My friend introduced me to you, Sanchit. Since then, you have been like an inspiration to me. You have been a mentor to me. I have asked you a lot of questions about photography. We met at Pushkar, and I had
Yeah,
that opportunity to photograph Pushkar with you. And that
absolutely.
was one of my most, enriching experience in my photography journey till now because I got to learn so much from you. Um, you were into a medical profession before, and then you switched it up. You got into photography. So what happened, and how did you chose photography?
Hi, good morning. Eh, yeah, it's wonderful seeing you after so long. And yes, meeting at Pushkar was a wonderful thing. And we did shoot together, and
Yeah.
it was lovely meeting you with Sanchit. And then uh, things have been a bit busy, so we haven't had a
Yeah.
time. But I
Yeah.
look forward to catching up soon again.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
Thank you so much for the kind words and saying that my work has kind of helped or kind of motivated you in some way. It's the best thing one can hear on a Sunday morning with snowfall here, so it warms up the spirits.
Yeah.
So it's lovely. Yeah, I have studied medicine. I've been trained in that, and I have had a career of about 15 to 17 years in medicine before I decided to make a switch to creative field.
Yeah.
And it was I think a time and point in my life and career where I could decide to make a switch. And I had always had a leaning towards painting,
Hmm.
arts in school, and but then because of uh, professional studies and career, I had
Yeah.
kind of drifted away. So when I was working in Dubai for close during a phase of my career for a few years, I got back to handling the camera, and
Okay.
the camera, in fact, introduced me to my childhood love for painting and drawing, and I could find
Yeah.
a similarity in the composition, in the palette of colors, and that's how I got back to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, since we are talking about photography and how you got into art, I have seen this with you. You have a very unique style of capturing pictures. You are able to see the most simplest of things, and then you capture those. And when I see those pictures, it's like मैंने कैसे नहीं देखा ये चीज, and that was literally me all the time in Pushkar with you. So I mean, that's something very unique about you. You hail from Kashmir.
Yeah.
In some way, the lifestyle there, has it affected your artistic abilities? Because I see a lot of creative people coming out from Kashmir nowadays. There are a lot of photographers, singers, artists. Like,
It is.
if you have to see the overall art community in India, I guess around 30 to 40% would be hailing from Kashmir. So can you elaborate on that?
Kashmir is home. So for me, I don't see it as a beautiful place, and that lens is not something that comes naturally to me. So there's a sense of belonging of home to this place.
Hmm.
But when you live in a place which is surrounded by bounty of nature and
Yeah.
by everything that nature and God has provided it, you tend to imbibe a sense of refinement in taste, be it in arts or aesthetics and all. And I'm sure it subconsciously seeps into your work. But of course, it everything kind of comes in from everyday life. You see it in your the way your room is done, the way your home is made, or the way
yeah,
you're dressed and attire, and your cuisine and your culture, tradition, everything has a salient effect into individual's life, and then I think has an outpouring in any field of art or any
yeah,
creative field, be it writing, poetry, and all. Oh yes, there are wonderful creative people around here, and more so in the recent years, because there has been, I think, also a persistent amount of um, conflict and political strife for the
yeah,
last 3 to 4 decades. So a lot of the generation, which either were very young then or are born after that, have taken to arts as as a sign of representation of themselves, and it's also a reflection of who they are. It's identity. So I think it has a salient and a very powerful layer to it there. Yeah,
hmm,
yeah. And
yeah,
about you mentioning about the simpler things and how I photograph them, they're not very conscious and very designed things. I think what happens is when you see a place like, let's say, Ladakh, Pushkar,
yeah,
Banaras, Kashmir, Kerala, or the international destinations which have been photographed often, what happens is people tend to follow a template. They
hmm,
have a preset in their mind of a visual. Oh, prayer flags means Ladakh. So you will
yeah,
have prayer flags while going to Ladakh, on the bikes, on the cars, and while coming back, which is all fine, which is very
true,
symbolic and all. But if your images also convey what other 100 people are clicking, then I think we are just following a kind of a kind of a preconceived notion of that place.
yeah,
So uh, when I started shooting Kashmir, didn't shoot it as that it's home and I know the territory, I know
hmm,
the people, I know the language. I shot it as fresh as anybody else. So I
yeah,
could see the very mundane things, but yet I could see a story in them. And unless a frame has a soul or a sur, a rhythm to it, and a sur or a rhythm is composed of so many elements. It has the beat, it has everything, the tal and all. So photography imagery is also like that.
yeah,
Imagery cannot be that you have a mountain and that completes it. There has to be
yeah,
light, there has to be balance of composition, there has to be a time and hour of the day. And people, for me, in photographs, probably what you might have been noticed, are a very strong element of my
yeah,
photography. They are they are my representation of my photography. So without people, even the most stunning landscape, like something that would be wow, I would
yeah,
still want to incorporate a human element to it
yeah, yeah,
and bind nature with everyday life of the people of a given place, which
yeah,
to me is a holistic imagery rather than visually being pretty.
true. So, sir, you talk about Kashmir. You have done a book on Kashmir. It's called Alluring Kashmir. I was looking at the pictures. I was flipping through the pages, and I saw some of the most stunning pictures I have seen of Kashmir in that book.
Thank you. Thank
Especially the first picture. When you open the book, there's this two-page picture. It's the contrast of pink and green. It's just grass and a tree.
you.
So,
Yeah,
that's what I was talking about earlier. Like you see the most simplest of things and you make them look so beautiful. And I cannot even imagine of clicking that picture ever. So I think that's something really, beautiful about your work. Your work is
thank you
actually
so
like
much.
poetry.
Thank you very much. I think what it comes down basic to also is when you mention that contrast of green and the
Yeah.
yellow, it also comes to me from my childhood and younger growing up days of being drawn to paintings.
Hmm.
So the color combinations,
Yeah.
the contrasts, the hues,
Yeah.
the what will kind of strike out or merge, or what will kind of blend with each other.
Yeah.
My eye seeks those elements. So I walk in a lane and I see a graffiti which is very innocuous in a lane, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
suddenly click it because I find those colors calling me out. So the picture you mentioned of the double spread is exactly that. The colors are telling me,
yeah.
okay, here we are. So I pay my tribute to the colors that exist there. But it's just that I'm lucky enough to kind of, identify and frame those moments. And then I have wonderful friends and people like you who come
Yeah.
back to me and say that we like that frame, which is the best thing that can happen to anybody's work.
So I have a really technical question about Alluring Kashmir. So this book is based on Kashmir. Kashmir is your home. I have noticed this thing about me and my friends who stay in Mumbai, that whenever someone asks us to do a project on Mumbai, we are really confused. Like, because this is our home, we have seen everything here, and after a point, it becomes something like, अब क्या हम यहाँ पे फोटो खींचे, क्योंकि इतने साल से हम फोटोज यहाँ पे ही क्लिक कर रहे हैं, तो what can be a new thing? And it becomes really tough for us to click Mumbai in a, very beautiful style now, because everyone has clicked everything, literally everything here. So I guess that's same for you as well, because you have grew up in Kashmir. So what was the process of, clicking the pictures for Alluring Kashmir?
It was a long shoot. It was about a shoot which spanned, I think, 5 to 6 years. I
Oh,
started shooting in 2012, much before I had returned back to India.
yeah.
And I continued shooting from 2014 till the book got published. So it was a span
Okay.
of the collective span of 6 years, and very active span of 4 years, 3 years shoot.
Okay.
So what happens is that, why do you take so much of time to shoot? You actually wean yourself into a place. You let the place be there, and then
Hmm.
you find elements in it. It's a very patience in driven, and a very kind of a meditative process of
Yeah. Yeah.
shooting a book of the scale of Alluring Kashmir, which uh, which required that amount of required that amount of time to be given to the place. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned about Bombay or Kashmir, and we have shot, and how do we reshoot it? When
Hmm.
I and my co-author Nilushri Biswas, who is a filmmaker and a
Yeah.
writer, who when we approached the idea of this book to the publisher, a lot of publishers told us, what is there in Kashmir that you want to do again? There are about a dozen,
Yeah.
probably 100 books on Kashmir, 50 of them on the landscape and nature, which have already
Yeah.
been done by photographers across the globe. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody who wants to have a portfolio, a body of work, will have Kashmir in it.
Yeah.
So what my process was is that, even though I know I was familiar with the place, the
Hmm.
the process was very simple in the fact that I did not rush to capture images. And I
Okay.
don't mean to say one has to have always 3 years, 4 years. It could be 2 weeks. But you have to first, the last thing that you should pick up in a shoot is the camera. What we tend to do is we shoot first and then think, oh, it has already been shot.
Yeah.
We should first familiarize ourselves to the lanes, to the sounds, to the nuances, to the moods of the streets, to the moods of the people, to the elements. At what time does a lane which is indescript, which doesn't have any element of drama to it, what time does it come alive? What time does it have a soul? So if you were to kind of, shoot Bombay, uh, you should not have this preconception, oh, it has been shot, so what will we shoot? You should have
Yeah.
this inherent thing in you that I'll go into a lane, let's say, even in Bandra or Andheri, or let's say Kumbarwada, and I'll observe that lane.
Hmm.
And when the flow of life exchanges the energies, people are coming, traffic, like the bustle of the city, starts, there, when you spend an hour at that nook and corner, you'll
Yeah.
suddenly find an element which you're not expecting.
Yes.
But for that, you have to be there. And the camera doesn't have to be there then. Your eyes have, your mind has to conceive images which you will think, oh, this was not expected out of a lane in Bandra.
Yeah.
So your anticipation of something coming out should meet the creative juices and then translate into an image in the camera. The camera is your tool, is
Hmm.
is 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 the is the thing which gives us beautiful images, but
Yeah.
it doesn't compose them.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is we try to overshoot, and we to try to shoot a lot, and we try to shoot because digital filing of the DSLRs and the mobile phones all have enabled us like hundreds of thousands of images. And in that, when you shoot bulk, sometimes you miss the very small and beautiful moments of it. So
Yeah.
my process was to go for a slow shoot and also tell the stories of that place, of that region, of that morning, of that evening, of that afternoon through people who are a part of it, through elements which are integral to it, like Dobie Ghat. How many million times has it been shot? But everybody shoots people washing clothes because
Yeah.
it's dynamic. It creates a swirl of an arc of the clothes going, water splashing. Everybody gets attracted to it. But if you walk through the lanes of Dhobi Ghat where these people live, you'll find an elderly dhobi sipping chai
Yeah.
or having a BD, and you'll find filtered light coming through a torn curtain, far away from the main action. So
Yeah.
everybody is chasing that dramatic shot, which will be the front cover image. But front cover doesn't make the book,
True.
nor does it make the magazine, nor does it make the movie, nor does it make any episode. You got to have a sustained series of images woven together which convey a sense. Oh, I like the 50th image also.
Yeah.
It should not be the poster that catches all the attraction and then you don't have a soul in the story.
So, sir, when you were talking about the process of capturing pictures right now, I could resonate with this because these were the exact words which you told me in Pushkar when I said you that I'm doing a book on Kushti and I have just
I
started
recall having
capturing
that
pictures.
conversation. I recall that.
Yeah.
I con- yeah.
So the conversation was something like this only, where you told me your pictures are good, but you need to have a string which makes these pictures in relation with each other. Like you just said, the 50th picture should be equally good as the cover picture. So that's
Yeah.
something which every photographer needs to understand, and that was like a very unique understanding for me. One of the biggest lesson of my photography career from you. So, I mean, and since then, I have seen photography with a different perspective. I went back to the place where I shot all the Kushti pictures, and I went a step deeper and I captured what people weren't able to see. So, that's all thanks to you.
Oh, my pleasure. And I love your Kushti pictures. And of course, like let's say a cover has to have that striking, eye-catching element. It
Hmm.
has to have that saleability or that element of a reader or a passerby
Yeah.
picking up the book. It
Yeah.
has to have its value. I'm not undermining it, but you cannot rely on that 1 or 10 pictures to pull you through a project or a book
Yeah.
where there have to be about 200 to 250 images.
Yeah.
What I mean to say is, if you have, let's say, 10 trump cards, you have 10 aces, you have to have equally good number of 50, 60 images to go in the book, which will hold the viewer's attention, because you're
Yeah.
flipping a book with about 300, 350 pages. It's not
Hmm.
a two-page article,
Yeah.
obviously has its own demands and constraints. But because then you got to concise and make that article so rich in about 1200 words and 6 images, where you have the liberty of it. So it works both ways. And
Yeah.
I think uh, consistency of shoot and the quality of images is something you should be willing to spare time on, because time is a luxury in today's time. In
Yeah.
today's world, you can't invest time because people want project deadlines. Everything has to be done in a certain time, amount of time. So that
Yeah.
is something you should realize in your mind. When we're doing the book, we knew that after we publish it, we can't unpublish it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a digital file that I can delete it
Yeah.
or I can keep it in a folder lying down. Once it goes out, even if I wanted to say change 20 images, I'll always say, oh, I should have waited more, I should have done
Hmm.
more. So
Yeah.
give it time and allow it to bloom.
Yeah. So, sir, what do you think is going wrong with the younger photographers now? Because a decade or two, like a decade or two back, there were photographers who actually wanted to capture pictures what meant something. Like they wanted to capture a story. And now, since Instagram, Facebook, and other social media apps have come out, photographers do not think about the story. They think about one picture, and they think about how many likes they'll get on this picture or how many followers they'll get because of this picture. So, what do you think went wrong in this like last 5 6 years?
See, being popular, being liked, and having a lot of followers is a very tempting
Yeah,
idea. It's a very tempting situation. Whether you're in school, college, whether you're in your office, you want to be the known guy. You want to have
yeah,
that popularity element to you. But in creative arts, in creative spheres, that comes with a cost. So
yeah,
if you're seeking a lot of likes and a lot of followers, there's nothing wrong with it. But that should not be your primary objective, because you're clicking an image which soothes your aesthetics, which soothes your creative sensibilities. Now, if I put it out on social media and it gets 100 likes or it gets 10,000 likes, sometimes those 100 likes can be interaction wise and feedback wise so enriching than somebody getting 10,000 likes and 200 of them are saying lovely, lovely, beautiful, wow,
yeah,
and all the language which I'm not, my generation is not familiar with. So hashtag this and dope pick and what pick, and uh, I love that energy about it. But I think where I think I won't say it has gone wrong, because that would be undermining a lot of amazing and wonderful young photographers. Where it has, I think, been unfortunately hijacked is by the race to reach 10,000 followers,
hmm,
100,000 followers, to 200,000 followers. And sometimes you have people who have 50,000 followers and their posts get 200 likes and 10 comments, and the comments never appreciate the effort that that guy has put in.
yeah,
He himself or herself becomes a slave to the like and to the comment, to the comment section. So I think this allure and this this uh, wanting to be an overnight rage or a overnight, as they say, a sensation,
hmm,
online or in the virtual thing. I think that has kind of course, some not helped a lot many people. But I think there are a lot of very gifted, very focused young photographers who know how to handle social media well.
Yeah.
So it all boils down to your intelligence, to
Hmm.
how to use the social media. So if your intelligence is to get a more interactive base with your friends, then it's a wonderful medium. But if you're doing 20 posts a day and not thinking, ki, is it helping my photography? If I check my photography 10 year, 4, 2 years ago or 1 year ago, is this shot a better shot than that take? Or just because somebody is going to like and put a red heart in the
Yeah.
comment section? I think those things one has to use one's basic intelligence, that what is my uh, aim, what do I want to get out of photography.
Yeah.
Social media should be an enabling element. It should be a very beautiful, engaging, very energetic medium to propagate your work. It should not be the end medium.
Hmm.
It you can become a very uh, powerful voice on the social media, and that should also have a reflection in your work. You cannot be only popular and your work has stagnated. Your work and your social media presence should complement each other.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. Yeah.
So this is a very common conversation topic among me and my friends, photographer friends. We constantly keep talking about photographers whose work is not at that level, but they have a major following on Instagram, Facebook, and other social media websites. And photographers who are published, like who are publishing their own books, who are clicking pictures for magazines and newspapers, they don't have those many followers. So I don't know how social media works in these secretive ways, but it is what it is. Sir,
I
I,
just uh, I just would want you to tell me if you we are connected on Instagram, and
yeah,
I'm on Twitter also. But like for example, I have almost negligible number of
hmm,
followers, and the people I follow on Instagram. Uh, would it mean that the work I do in exhibitions, photo exhibitions, in books, would I trade that off for, let's say, 100,000 followers? Never.
never.
Never. I
Yeah,
would rather have 20 followers, 20 friends who know me, who know my work, who really want to see an image if I post it, let's say, four, 3 times a week, and who know that this work comes from a sense of enjoyment of the process of making an image. So to each its own.
yeah.
I'm sure the followers help, I'm sure the views help, I'm sure the likes help, but I would always want to have 3 books more than possibly 300,000 followers. That's my take
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you release many more books, sir, because
I
I
am. I
start.
am actually. I am. I have 2 books coming up
Oh
very
yeah,
soon. I hope by the middle of this year, because everything has gone off track because of the
yeah,
COVID situation. But I have a book for coming up on Banaras, a place I really enjoyed shooting, and
yeah.
also a book on Ladakh and a book on Calcutta. So my plate is full. So by the end of next, say, let's say 12 months to 18 months, we should, along with my co-author and colleague, Hiloshi, should be able to get at least 2 books in publication in the next 12 months, which is a decent
Yeah.
target to attain. Yeah, yeah.
So just putting in a request. Can I get a signed copy of your book?
Absolutely. Which one do you want?
I want all three. But
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
thank you, sir. So
Go for it.
I wanted to ask you this question before as well. We were talking on call, and you told me that because of the COVID situation, the publication industry got a pretty bad hit because everything was shut down for around 8 to 9 months. How does a writer, how does a photographer, or anyone in the artistic field who wants to publish some kind of his or her work deal or cope up with this thing, with the situation right now?
COVID apart, pandemic apart, independent creative art fields is a very challenging, very demanding field.
Hmm.
So for youngsters who want to pursue this as as a solitary medium, um, forewarned, it's a heartache. It's not easy. So I would my suggestion would be to possibly get some years of some kind of livelihood or a job, and on the sides
Hmm.
also hone your skills in the creative medium, because it's going to take you time to
Yeah.
hit a certain note or to hit a certain target. It's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
um, as you are aware that I write my books also. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
co-written Alluring and all. Writing sometimes benefits from isolation.
Hmm.
If a situation puts you uh, like a lockdown can, in a way, after the initial sudden shock and setback that you're not allowed to go out, and we get a lot of it in Kashmir. So
Yeah.
writing can be stimulated by having time at hand, and the time to develop, conceive an idea, and then to refine it, and then to write a pitch and write a plot and rewrite it and recreate it. So writing possibly is something which takes lesser of a hit um, when a situation like a pandemic happens.
Yeah.
Photography takes the bigger hit because photography is a more physically involved space. You've got to
Hmm.
go out to spaces. You're going to travel is integral
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
photography, and travel, I don't mean only to far off destinations. Even
Yeah.
travel within your own city
Yeah.
and even with your own state or region. So photography, yes, has taken a hit. I haven't seen a lot of work, or at least in my Instagram feed, among the photographers who have shot a lot during the pandemic. I hardly have
Yeah.
seen, apart from few photojournalist friends who shot the initial aspect of
Yeah.
the post lockdown scenario and the urban migration and all those things. I haven't seen a lot of imagery coming out of from this, but I have few friends in US who have shot extensively, and they are not photojournalists, and they have shot Black Lives Matter, they have shot the COVID scenes, they have shot people wearing masks. So there is a sense
Hmm.
of documentation with
Yeah.
some of the photographers have done.
Yeah.
So uh, publishing, like any other industry, did obviously have a impact on their calendar and on their schedules, but I think it still managed to do pretty much okay, because I could see a lot of books being published, and of course those were the big number books, the bigger
Yeah.
authors who have a saleability attached to them, and
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course the marketing teams work on that the demand is that if A and B author who are going to garner X number of sales, they do
Hmm.
get through that. But yes, it's been a challenging year, but I'm sure that things are on the mend, and with possibly talks of vaccination around the corner, and
Yeah.
possibly things returning to some kind of routine, a new routine, even if though. So I
Yeah.
think things are going to look up. Um And was your question about how has the creative work been affected towards
Yeah, yeah,
pandemic,
yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah,
Both
that's
questions,
that's
like,
in my that's how I saw it, that the writer friends I have, they have been able to pretty much, you know, come up with certain ideas, even if they are
yeah.
just plot points, even if
Hmm.
they are pitches.
Yeah,
Photography has taken, I would say a bigger hit, because the ones I know of my friends here in India, I haven't seen a lot of photography coming up, because obviously they were constrained to their homes a
yeah.
lot of the time, and as much as one would be creative, you still restricted. Even though I was in Bombay till June,
Okay.
because there were no flights happening, so I
Yeah.
did have a series of from my window. I shot from my window,
Hmm. Wow.
and I did capture a lot of images, and I have continued that series in Kashmir. So it's one of those things which may not never see the light of the day, because
Yeah.
um, it's a very niche and a very eclectic way to look at lockdown through your window only. So sometimes you shoot maybe somebody carrying a sack of vegetables, or somebody you
Yeah.
see a
Yeah.
pigeon sitting on the perch. But that's how we combat. That's how I combated with it. But I did write a few pilot points, and let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, you have a really unique style of capturing pictures, and you have really unique ideas like the one which you said just now, capturing pictures from your window. So I have a question, and this is a personal question. This is not from our audience. I have tackled with, like, I've tried to tackle with this question a lot of times. There are photographers who go out in conditions that are not, meant for photographers. These conditions are meant for photojournalists, and they capture pictures. So how ethical it is for someone who is not a photojournalist to go out and capture pictures, in, say, riots, or for example the Black Lives Matter thing. What do you have to say about that?
I have never shot like that. One, I'll tell you first my reason why I
Hmm.
don't shoot it. Photojournalism is a very powerful element of photography
Yeah.
in Kashmir, and it happens on a daily basis, because there are elements and there are stories which need to be
Yeah.
told, human angles and all that stuff. The work that's being done here by the photojournalists is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are one of the most inspiring people I know of, and their work is so good that I my work and trying to go into their area is just trying to create images with no reason.
Hmm.
This They're doing such great work, and that I really admire them for their emotional courage and the nerve to do it continuously. About uh, people who do it, I won't know the reason why they do it.
Yeah.
Probably going into an area is and which is
A red zone.
like the zone, or the expertise of a photojournalist. I personally wouldn't. If Even if I were to shoot something, will I
Hmm.
publish it? No. That for me falls into that very fine line of ethical photography,
Yeah.
where I can pose as a photojournalist just to get few pictures in the print.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. I wouldn't not do
So I asked you this question because I have a journalism degree, I have a journalism background, and a lot of times my friends are like, who don't even know the basics of journalism, and they are going out and capturing pictures in red zones. They are going out and capturing pictures which they are not meant to capture, and I find it very difficult to tell them that it's wrong, it's not ethical. So that's why I asked you this question, because you have a much better idea about this scenario.
so I don't do it. and I have no plans of doing it because it just doesn't fall in my
Hmm.
way of doing things. And
Yeah.
also, mentioning people shooting a red zone area or something like that. These are very sensitive subjects. These are
Yeah.
very humane subjects. One should not shoot a thing because there is sensationalism to it, or there will be eyeballs which will be you'll grab eyeball attention, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you'll your imagery suddenly becomes the talk of that hour.
Yeah.
That the digital thing is that hour,
Hmm.
that
Correct.
feed. 2 hours later, that is buried. Nobody remembers that. But people who do it, maybe some of few of them who do it with the great intent of telling human stories and sufferings and all, should also be kind of aware of the fact that any person in that kind of a situation is a human, and that
Hmm.
person requires absolute basic right to be dignity, to be presented in a dignified manner. And where are you representing that person?
Yeah.
What is that outreach? I understand
Yeah.
photojournalism, people have media outlets. They pull out a story of something happening in a very remote of place and make it go to the headlines.
Yeah. Yeah.
They bring attention to some stories. um, I'm talking about photojournalism,
Yeah.
not television.
Yeah.
Television
Yeah.
has lost its
That's a
grace
completely different aspect. Yeah.
that's a completely different era.
Yeah.
So we don't want area, and better not to be mentioning that in the same breath as photojournalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Photojournalism, people need to be appreciated for the work they do. But if people who are not serious about those projects are posing as photojournalists and just putting those images up without you know actually the benefit of that story reaching out to the ones we generated
Yeah.
the story from,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the right thing to go.
And sometimes this thing happens in India that any kind of story, once it reaches the media houses, it becomes something else. Like for example, last year the Delhi riots, a lot of photographers tried to capture what was happening in the capital, and some of those photographers didn't even have the photojournalist ID card. So those photographers got beaten by the police, and later on the stories which came out were that police beating photojournalists, and that creates a very negative environment for photographers as well. And I don't know how to answer this whole
Yeah,
scenario because
this is one area I would rather stay away from because
yeah,
honestly, the journalists, photojournalists here, I have like some very few friends, and a lot of work I see is amazing, and
yeah,
kudos to them for doing that. So I
yeah,
don't think we need people who are half serious about the job and
hmm,
not really do it well. So what's the point?
yeah, true, true. So one last question before we end this podcast. Um, who are some of the photographers which whose pictures you look up to? Like, who are your favorites in India or out of India?
Uh, I have a very small bunch of people whose images I have seen and observed, and those have been, I think, my biggest influences.
Yeah,
But uh, I have a very deliberate method of how to shoot a book. I don't see, like for example, my next book is Banaras. I have
yeah,
not seen any other book of Banaras being photographed. I know, I'm aware of there are books on that.
hmm,
I haven't seen them. Once
okay,
my book is out, which should be in the next 6 to 8 months, then I'll see the work of other people.
yeah, yeah.
So if I have a book project on hand, if I have a project on hand, I don't have any reference point.
Okay, so you go with a
I
blank
don't. I
mind.
don't. Oh, absolutely. if I go to Bombay, I will not shoot a single image which I know has been shot by someone. And even if
Yeah.
I have a faint idea of it, I'll 100% not shoot the same thing again. So my influences and my absolute favorites would be Henry Cartier-Bresson,
Yeah.
HCB, Vivian Mayer, and uh, here in India would be uh, Raghuveer Singh.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so I think these three people have a very common thing in them, apart from their amazing body of work, is that they have been able to include people and
Yeah.
people's stories in their images.
Yeah.
And that for me is something which is the soul of telling a story.
Yeah. So, sir, that was like the end of this podcast. I hope so. I don't even hope. I for sure know this episode is gonna be like the master degree for a lot of photographers out
Yes,
there.
Manmohan, it's a pleasure talking to you. It's
Same here,
such a
sir.
good it's such good a good start to the year to see you and to talk to a younger friend who's
Yeah.
doing some very innovative work, and I admire you for your kind of efforts to do your podcast, and I love the way you're doing it. I wish you all the
Thank you,
very
sir.
best. Good luck, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to us shooting soon.
Yeah, sir, definitely. We still have to shoot the Kushti in Kolhapur.
Kushti, yeah. I did
Yeah.
shoot a bit of Kushti in Banaras, but
Yeah.
I am sure I want to shoot the Kushti with you, and I look
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yes, sir. Definitely we'll
All right,
do that like very soon. Once again,
absolutely.
thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure, absolute pleasure for having me here, and thank you and take care. Bye bye.